Welcome to Second Chance Vinyl. This is a video channel dedicated to cleaning, restoring and recollecting my own vinyl collection. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I've been getting a lot of comments from you guys suggesting that I'm doing it wrong, I'm hurting my records, nobody listen to this guy, go and jump in on Lake, and a lot more. So I thought I might use simple and basic science to run a test to see how using brushes and wet washing a record actually affects the record. Is it bad for your records? Is it okay? Because there are a lot of people out there that still prefer to use this method. So using my handy little microscope, I would use a number of brushes against the vinyl and we'll see once and for all whether they actually scratch the vinyl or not. First is my trusty facial brush I now use instead of the baby's hair brush. The reason being, this is the softest brush I've found that is still hard enough to dislodge dirt. Next is my super fine bristled toothbrush. It's a soft toothbrush, but the bristles are so fine they're designed to actually get between the grooves. This is a recommendation from you guys. This is a 100% natural goat's head paintbrush. This is a painter's edging brush. The bristles are incredibly fine and incredibly soft. What I like about this is that it really does get deep within the grooves and it follows the grooves really nicely. Next we have some kind of paintbrush, or I'm not sure, it's a synthetic bristled brush I found in an arts and crafts store. I'm going to call this one a bathroom brush. The bristles are quite firm, a bit rough. Call this one a laundry brush. Bristles are even firmer. I'll repeat this process using the superfine bristled toothbrush, but under lubricated conditions by wetting the toothbrush. And to make sure that we don't get things mixed up, I'll number each of these items. And my long forgotten baby's hairbrush will be number 9. Okay, mighty big crime. Sorry for what I'm about to do to your record. I can only assume that you've got a crate load of these somewhere in storage. I'll be taking advantage of this large flat ring at the end of the track. It'll be a perfect canvas to test the damage caused by the brushes in this test. Using a ruler and a blade, I'll score marks into the vinyl to pinpoint a defined area to test the before and after for each of the brushes I'll be using. So 9 lines in total. Again, to make sure that we don't mix things up, I'll number each of these lines to match up with the numbers of the brushes that we'll be using. Now let's see what the before looks like under the microscope. So the marks I've created for each of these brushes has some slight visible markings as expected. I'll be testing these brushes in a vertical up and down motion, as there's no visible markings in that direction to start with. Once we complete the test, we'll then look for vertical scratches or a change from what we're currently seeing. Forgive the sharp movements in this footage. I wanted to video these areas as opposed to using still photos. If anyone feels motion sickness, just pretend this is a scene from the Blair Witch Project. Let's get scrubbing. First, the facial cleansing brush. Second, the dry run for the superfine bristled toothbrush. The natural fibered goat's head paintbrush. You can really hear that. The super soft painter's edging brush. Synthetic bristled crafts brush. bristles in that brush are really densely packed. Firm bathroom brush. Very firm laundry brush. Superfine toothbrush, but wet. I wanted to see if lubrication makes a difference. I didn't get footage of using the baby's hairbrush, but I will add the before and after comparison with the rest. Right, let's have a look at the results. First up, we have the facial cleansing brush. As we've seen, there's light scratching already moving from left to right in a slight diagonal pattern. Comparing the same area, we can see the same markings as in the before footage and no other additional markings in any direction. Next, we have the dry, superfine bristled toothbrush. This is the before. Oh dear. Clearly we can see new markings in a vertical direction. Although light markings, the vinyl has been scratched. The before of the goat's head brush. The after, we can see some new vertical scratching, and as we move around it's looking a lot worse, and we can see that these scratches are much deeper than the toothbrush. Okay, this is the before of the painter's edging brush. We can see some markings there that I believe is actually dirt apart from the scratches, and in the next screen we can see that that's cleaned away and there's no new markings at all. Next, we've got the before for the synthetic crafts brush. I call it a crafts brush because I got it from a craft store. As we can see, there's some scratching and some dirt, but in the next screen, there's no vertical lines whatsoever again, suggesting that this has not scratched the vinyl. This is the before for the bathroom brush. Now the after is clean with no vertical lines at all. This does surprise me as the bristles are firm and we could hear an audible sound as we move the brush across the record. Now we move on to the before for the laundry brush. Okay, nothing needs to be said there. I mean, look at that. You can even see the vertical lines across the grooves of the record. This is the before for the wet, superfine bristled toothbrush. Interestingly, the markings don't actually change. It looks like lubrication does make a difference. And finally, the before for the baby's hairbrush. Oh dear, they are scratches from a baby's hairbrush. What a worthwhile exercise that turned out to be. If you guys recall, when I first started making videos for this channel, I used to use a baby's hairbrush, and I thought I was a genius. The bristles were super soft, wouldn't harm a hair on a baby's head. Well, we saw what it did to a vinyl record. It scratched up a hard vinyl record. It left visible marks on the vinyl. And, you know, I can only imagine what this does to a poor baby's head. I used to use this brush on my son's head when he was a baby. Sorry, mate, I'm clearly a bad father. So a baby's hairbrush is not safe for your records, and it's out. But I was pleased to discover that we did find some brushes that are safe to wet wash your records with. The facial scrubbing brush, super soft bristles, wouldn't hurt a fly, wouldn't harm a hair on a baby's head, feels like a cloud when you brush it against your cheek. Now, it didn't leave any marks on the record at all, but the only concern I've got about this is, are the bristles firm enough to properly clean a heavily soiled record when it's got contamination like mold, as we've seen with some of my records in the past? I don't believe it would. However, for a general clean, I think this is a fantastic brush to use. And it's also a brush I really like to use in the first stage of cleaning a record. And I'll continue to do that. Very much the same with the painter's edges brush. I thought, again, that was a very effective brush on a lightly contaminated or a lightly soiled record that didn't leave any marks on the vinyl, so it is safe. But again, for heavy contamination, probably not the best brush to use. And I know a lot of people have left comments and this is their preferred brush to use. And I think it's brilliant for just a general clean. And I will definitely start adding this to my little bag of tricks in the future. The other thing I really liked was that crafts brush, that synthetic bristled brush that I got from the arts and crafts shop. Now, that again is safe to use. It left no marks, no visible marks. But the thing I really like about it is that the bristles are firm and they're really fine, so they'll get deep within the grooves. So when it comes to heavy, soiled and contaminated records, I think this is going to be a brilliant option. And I haven't used it yet on a record, and I cannot wait to use it, and I will be using it on my very next record. So that's safe, and it's certainly in. I was also surprised by the bathroom brush. Now, that proved to be safe. It didn't show any marks whatsoever. However, I was really shocked by this one because the bristles are really firm and they're really sharp. And it just goes to show, using science, that if the materials used to make the bristles on that brush are softer than the materials used to make the vinyl record, then it's not going to scratch the vinyl record. However, is it effective as a brush to clean records? I don't know. The bristles are a bit thick. I don't think they're going to get between the grooves, so probably not ideal. However, it is safe if you choose to use one of those. We did find that there are a number of brushes that aren't safe. My favorite brush to use, it's been my number one weapon of choice when it comes to dislodging heavy contamination, is the superfine bristled toothbrush. As we saw when I used it dry, it left marks. It scratched the record, super disappointed. However, when we used it under lubrication, and as you would when you wet wash a record, I didn't see it leave any scratches. So I'm not convinced that it's safe, and I think further investigation is needed here. But until I test it further, I'm not going to be using it at all on my records. Something that was really popular in the comments was using a goat's head brush, a natural fibered goat's head brush. Straight away, we could see that didn't work. It scratched up the record pretty bad, and it was very obvious scratches that we saw as well. So 100% that's out. And we also saw that the laundry brush, I didn't expect it to be a good option, but that left the deepest scratches of it all, and that's an absolute no-go zone. So look, I hope you learned something today, and for the people that have been making comments suggesting that I'm doing this wrong and I'm hurting my records, I hope you realise that there are some safe ways to use brushes on records when you're wet washing a record, and I certainly hope I've changed your opinion. And for those of you who do like to wet wash a record, I hope you've discovered the safer brushes to use moving forward. So thanks very much for watching. If you did like what you saw today, like this video, hit the subscribe button. It really does make a big difference, and it allows me to continue to make these videos moving forward. And also leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you got to say, positive or negative. I've certainly learned a lot since my very first video. So thanks for watching. The next video I make is going to be another cleaning video, and I really hope that you can join me for that one.